to Every Day is a New Day.
Kim O'Neill from KimO'NeillCoaching.com.
We are live. Welcome to another episode of Every Day is a New Day, where I have inspired conversations with amazing guests about moving forward and choosing to embrace a positive outlook. My name is Kim O'Neill. I'm your host for today, and I'm also a personal empowerment and interview confidence coach. And if you're watching us live, that means you have found us on Facebook at Kim O'Neill Coaching or on one of the many pages this has been shared out to. And if you're watching the replay, in addition to Facebook, you can also find us on YouTube or on bingenetworks.tv at the Every Day is a New Day channel. And I'm so excited to have you here and my guest here today. So please go ahead and like, comment, share. If you have questions with us live, type those in because you're going to love today's guest. And now's your time to be able to interact with him. So we are showing up live on Facebook. I'm going to close that. There we go. And so with that said, I want to welcome today's guest. Welcome, Devin Galaudet.
Hey, Kim O'Neill, how are you? It's exciting to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. That was a nice, very formal, hello to me. We were already into conversation and having laughs before the show. And I just said, finally, okay, we got to start. We got to start because Devin is just so fun. So Devin, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and read your bio to everyone. And then, of course, you can expand on that and share with us more. How's that sound?
Great. Sign me up.
Okay, sounds good. He's here. Okay, so for those that don't already know, Devin Galaudet, he's the editor-in-chief of In the Know Traveler, and he's visited 85 countries around the world. He's currently in the process of marrying his wife 100 times in 100 countries, 20 times in 15 countries so far. He's appeared on Fox, NBC, Reinvention Radio, among many others, and his writing can be seen in the Huffington Post, TravelAge West, Two Hawks Quarterly, the Citron Review, Turkish Airlines, Skylife Magazine, and others. And the awesome newest thing he has to share with us today is Devin's memoir, 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes, is going to be available in bookstores everywhere on September 18th, 2018, which answers the question, what do you do when you lose your father's ashes?
Thank you for reminding me of that really miserable day. I feel the love here in my heart. Anyway, it's good to be here anyway.
Good. I'm glad you're here with us. So let's get started. You've got this book coming out. Of course, I want to hear more about your story and stuff, but your book's coming out and tell us more about that. That's super exciting. Yes.
Am I allowed to do this? Is that gratuitous? It's a little bit gratuitous. Basically, my father's, according to my father's seventh wife, my brain cells are all going to be working in unison soon. According to my father's seventh wife, his last dying request was to be scattered off the coast of Cadiz, Spain. And he was not Spanish. And he wanted Ave Maria to be played. And he was a con man and a sweet guy and my greatest hero and about as unreliable as one human being could possibly be. And so I took him to Spain anyway. And then I managed to lose the ashes. I mean, that's, to be quite honest with you, that is only part of the real story. I mean, really, much of it is how do you love and idolize somebody who turns out to be a real ne'er-do-well, a well-intentioned ne'er-do-well, but a desperately flawed ne'er-do-well. And so, how do you rectify that? I tried to be just like him, and for years nailed it, but it wasn't a sustainable lifestyle. You know what I mean? Just because I wanted to be like him doesn't mean that I was actually any good at it. And so there you go. So, so the story is kind of like, how do you love somebody who has really all of these sort of flawed qualities? And how do you sort of put your parent in a proper place? And how do you give them enough slack to be as flawed and human as possible? So, it's a complicated set of ideas that, and I think what I'm trying to do is really walk a very, very fine line to sort of like say, hey, you are the worst clown ever, and I love you, you know, and you're my father. And how do you work within these confines to be sort of like growing up surrounded by these flawed things and kind of make it sing, you know, make it sing. And so I think that there is, you know, there's a lot of ridiculousness in the book, because what you were talking about earlier is I really do have sort of a general outlook on life that, you know, we are going to be mired and surrounded by, and you know, I apologize to anybody with very sensitive and delicate sensibilities, but we're surrounded by a horseshit in our life in one form or another. And how do we walk through these things? You know, how do we walk through the landmines? Again, I apologize, of the horseshit. And I think a lot of it has to do with how do we find humor in our hearts, and how do we, you know, how do we move forward with a little bit of grace and a little bit of sort of compassion for the imperfection, not only in those around us, but within ourselves.
I love how you're so on off. You know, I'm hearing a little feedback. I don't know why. Okay, I just have to acknowledge it, because you have to know that I'm hearing myself in, like, you know, surround sound.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Totally crazy, man.
Okay, so Devin, so I have not read your story yet. And so I'd love to know, did you grow up with your dad?
I did.
Okay.
He was very, very much in my life until I was about 20 years old. And then he sort of, you know, it's kind of an ironic thing. Like, he was very much, Papa was a Rolling Stone for many years. He met my mother, who was really sort of like his equal in crazy, like a special, unique. I mean, they had a special, unique glue, totally. I mean, I don't know if that was like quality parenting, Ozzie and Harriet kind of lifestyle, but they were unique to each other, and they understood each other in this beautiful, fantastic way. And then when that relationship kind of, you know, split when I was around 20 years old, he became another Rolling Stone. And so part of it is that we had this really close bond, and then he sort of disappeared and blew off in every direction. He used to tell me that my father, he would say, your old man, he's like the wind, which means nothing. What does that even mean? But he would say these kind of sort of absurd sort of fortune cookie answers to describe himself, which were sort of like, hey, you know, I'm this whimsical character and don't expect much. And that's kind of what I understood. Like, I think he understood himself, and I think he understood his own shortcomings, you know? So, but that said, but how do I understand that as a grown-up? How do I understand that as a person? So that's, you know, really what I try to do is take sort of like the most absurd moments during our life together and try to make sense of them, and try to, you know, in sort of like a serious context of like, you know, I hate your face. And then in a more like, well, but how can we understand this? And how do I get to kind of look through my lens in a variety of ways so I can kind of not be filled with anguish? Because that's, you know, under my father's worst case scenario, he didn't want me to lead a miserable life pining away for this, you know, absurd guy. It was like, well, let's have some fun with Crazy Town.
So was it around age 20 when you started to see your father more clearly? Or did you have some sense of the way you view him today? Did you have some sense of that as a kid?
Oh, yeah, no, I knew he was crazy.
Okay.
I knew he was crazy from a very early age. I mean, there was something like he was absolutely the guy who kissed the boo-boos on my knee and gave me big bear hugs. And he did so many right things. And then when he was off, he was like, whoa, that was, you know, you are from Mars, my dear father. And so I think probably by the time, like, I think I had inklings of it, you know, but by the time I was 13 or 14, it was like, he was scary and crazy and loving. And I wanted to be everything like him because he's what I understood of what men were. You know, he was what a man was. And so what else was I going to do but aspire to be sort of like, how do you smoke 4 packs of cigarettes? I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out right this second.
Okay, so tell us more about that, because I know that your journey took you in some challenging directions or some rough times, or if you want to say, use your term earlier, the horse beep.
Right. No, we don't want you looking like you are a coarse person. We can save that for me. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's just what I think men. I grew up where my mother's family was kind of more straight-laced. I mean, they may have been, certainly flawed in their own magical way, but like Dad had a certain kind of John Wayne gusto, and he did things with a certain style and panache that not only like he came from a huge family, and I kind of always saw him as sort of like the grand mufti. He had a certain leadership quality that everybody around him loved, and he just had this magical thing. And so I grew up watching the way people responded to him, even though maybe he didn't really deserve their trust in many circumstances. Okay. And he smoked cigarettes like crazy. And so I remember when I was 12 years old, I remember stealing on Thanksgiving. Everybody chain smoked and everybody drank, whether or not they actually drank and chain smoked in real life. But this was like cigarettes were just everywhere. And I was kind of like the last kid. Okay. You know what I mean? I was like the last kid at the card table. And so I ended up stealing 2 packs of my father's Salem's and 2 Budweisers. And I stole them. And we had this it was sort of like the worst apartment in a nice-ish neighborhood in the 1970s. And I remember going out into this backyard in this little ivy walkway that was kind of overgrown and hidden. And I smoked all the cigarettes and I drank the beers and then I barfed a lot, and my first thought was not that I'm doing something wrong. It's that I just haven't figured out how to do it right yet.
Wow.
And so, that ultimately led to, getting Budweiser was a little bit trickier. Okay. Stealing cigarettes was a little bit less so.
Wow.
And then I discovered that pills were fairly easy because I think everybody in 1978 was on Valium or Vicodin or some sort of muscle relaxant. And so that was kind of an easy thing to grab a hold of. And so, I think very early on, I knew what I was doing was wrong, even in sort of like, once my friends started, finding things, it became a little bit easier. But even then, I just knew that I was while they could sort of like try something out and be okay, I would be like, well, let's try this. And then let's try 4 of those. And let's try 9 of these.
So like pushing the envelope?
Yeah, I didn't have an off switch. Like I think, even to this day, I see people, like socially, do marijuana or something like that. And then they have their toke and then they're done and that's the end of it. And somebody like me doesn't really have that off switch. Okay. Like, one is too many and 1,000 is not enough. And so, there are people who have that ability to kind of use things in a sensible way. They go out and they swirl their glass of wine and they smell it and they have all of these sort of like things to figure out that tells them it's a good wine. Mm-hmm. For me, the wine is good if I drank all of it. That was my yardstick of knowing whether or not it was any good. So I know that I'm kind of making fun of it. And it's at the same time, addiction is a really terrifying and horrible thing because a great many people, I'm blessed. And by the way, I talk all kinds of nonsense about myself and my upbringing and all those kinds of things. But I've known a great many people who did not make it.
Wow.
Like they OD'd, they're gone, they're no longer with us. And it's tragic.
So would you say you had an addictive personality?
Yeah, wouldn't you say that after?
Yeah, but I don't want to put words into your mouth, you know? Okay, Devin says it too.
Yeah, no, I have that, like, I'm absolutely the person who wants to eat all the cupcakes. I am absolutely just like, if they have one of a thing, I want all of them. You know what I mean? Like, I read Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk years ago. And then it was like, oh no, I don't want to just read that book. I want to have all the books written by that guy. You know, it's like whatever there is, I want more of that thing. If that makes, and I don't know why that is. You know, for the most part, I lead a really good life and I'm blessed, but I have to acknowledge certain things over to myself. Like, if you're swirling your wine, going, oh, look at how that does whatever it does. I know that isn't for me.
Okay. So what was your rock bottom moment?
Oh, like there was 100 of them. I mean, I think there was there was absolutely a point where I was praying to God to kill me. Like, okay, God, I don't know if you exist, but really, I know what I'm doing is going to lead me in a direction that won't be good. And so go ahead, just kill me. I can't figure this thing out. I mean, the good news is, I mean, long story short, I mean, there was that, a lot of that, and it was a lot of where I would wake up behaving in a way that I knew was unacceptable to any amount of integrity that I had. You know, I was drinking and using against my will. You know, all of a sudden it would be like, well, I don't have to do that tonight. And I would make these plans and I would be like, no, all I have to do is just pull myself up by my bootstraps and say no. And for whatever reason, I didn't have, again, you know, I have so many friends who had just this capability of like, whoop, even if it was to excess, they were capable of sort of like, well, tonight I'm going to go a little hog wild, right? Okay. We're going to have fun. It'll be great. And everybody will laugh. And then somebody's going to pass out and maybe we'll draw a mustache on them with a Sharpie, but then we're done, right?
Right.
And so I just took things to different levels. I mean, I would sneak out of the house in the middle of the night and drive down to 6th and San Julian in downtown Los Angeles because it was crazy, because it was wrong.
So I love that you're here today and you don't appear to be a person who overindulges to that extent anymore. And so I love that you're here to share with us that story. How did you get to where you are today, knowing that that's what you started with?
Well, I mean, it's a big question. You know, really what I did was I started trying to seek out God in some form or another. And when I say seek out God, it's kind of like, you know, you don't even have to be sort of like a believer in God per se, or you don't have to be somebody who believes in the personification of God. I sought out anything. I mean, I remember I had hit a certain measure of a bottom in my late 20s. Okay. And I had come back, I bounced around Europe without my money. I stole my mother's credit card and then said, hey, well, you don't want me dying out here. You're going to let me use this credit card, which was so not cool, but it was kind of what I did. And I came back and I was sort of very lost. And I remember having this dream, and they used to have the Bodhi Tree bookstore in Los Angeles. And I remember having this dream that the books would fly off the shelves. And I went there and I ended up buying several books, something on witch burning in Salem and some other Wicca book. And, you know, I just started going back and I started devouring whatever it is that I could on everything from Christianity to Buddhism to Wicca to whatever it was, because I wanted to get a sense of what people did to find salvation or happiness or contentment or purpose. And so I studied all this stuff and I went to all of these things. I mean, you know, quite literally, I tried to do confession one day. And they were like, well, but are you Catholic? Because I sat down and I said, hey, listen, I'm not a Catholic, but I have some stories, bro. You need to sit up, right? And hold yourself in readiness because I have some stuff. And he was like, but are you Catholic? Have you been baptized? I'm like, no, but who cares? This should be like, This should be like a thing. And I mean, I was having this absurd debate with this guy. And I'm not even sure if he was Catholic or what the deal was. I mean, I don't still to this day don't know enough about sort of like the different sects of Christianity or how they sort of interplay with each other. But,
Okay.
I was in a big, beautiful cathedral, and there was this guy in a box, and I got to talk to him, and he's like, well, no, we can't. What do you mean you can't? There has to be a thing. And he was like, well, no, you need to be baptized. I'm like, but who cares? This would be a selling point to me if you would do this.
So where are your beliefs now when it comes to God or spirituality?
Wow, that is a really complicated thing. In part, I am a Thelemite, which is a very complicated thing.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, most people probably won't. It is sort of equal parts ceremonial magic and sort of like occult philosophy. And it really deals at its core about finding out who it is that you are, in terms of and we're not talking about career. We're talking about really who it is that you are in order to service the world in a positive way. And so I really got into that. And I'm still sort of like a devotee. Like, my job is to be the best me that I can, to kind of be of service to you, or anybody else who needed my help in a way that I could be of service to, sort of like doing my thing, as it were. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm probably not to be a brain surgeon. I see behind your head what appears to be some sort of a degree. That's probably not where that's not where I'm headed. I am a writer and I have degrees, but that came way later. And then on sort of more of a religious bent, I am a Baha'i.
Okay, I've heard of that. I haven't studied it though.
Yeah, it basically believes in the manifestations of God, and we can call those sort of like Jesus and Muhammad and Buddha and Zoroaster. Okay. And we could look at those people who sort of came in a progressive manifestation. In other words, the kinds of things that we needed to know as human beings that showed up when we were hunter-gatherers through Abraham are probably not going to be the same kinds of things that we need to understand as human beings where we have evolved in the Industrial Revolution.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, we're kind of just getting started over here, and with each new manifestation, there's sort of additional rules and additional concepts to behold and maintain. So, a Baha'i would believe in sort of gender equality. It would believe in racial equality, a bunch of other things that I find beautiful. And honestly, a person like me needs a lot of rules isn't the wrong word, but sort of like spiritual components to use as guidelines so that I can be of service and of support to those around the world.
So, I'm glad that you just shared that, because I'm going to see if that helps the echo in my head.
I can still hear you.
You can still hear me. Good. Okay. So I'm glad that it sounds like that supports you in being able to, I guess, indulge less or be healthier. What else do you do that supports you in moving forward?
Well, I mean, I stay close to folks who need support in their own addiction.
Okay.
It is my personal experience that I understand in ways about the nature of addiction that a lot of people who just don't have that gear.
Okay.
So I do work with drug addicts and alcoholics, and I think when I understand that gear, it's easy to connect with. It would be like, I'm in a puzzle club. We put together 1,000-word piece, or we put together 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles to make a map of the Mona Lisa. People who are really, really into that connect with each other because they understand the part of the brain that needs that specific kind of stimulation. So I understand what it is to be an addict and want to say to myself, oh yeah, no, you need to eat this whole sack of cookies.
So do you have any daily routines or anything that really keep you centered and grounded or focused or anything like that?
Oh yeah, no, I have a total slew of things that I do. I mean, part of it is, real simplistic prayer and meditation,
Okay.
like my conscious, and I also am a great believer that faith without works is dead. I'm a big believer that, you know, if I stay out of my own way, in other words, if I say that I'm in one of my lowest points, like,
Right.
oh, I think I should, I haven't really gotten into heroin, but I've heard good things. Kim, what do you think? Should I go do that?
No.
And no, don't. Right, terrible idea. Because in part of this thing that I'm talking about is that if I don't tell you and I don't articulate the kinds of nuttiness that are going on in my head, it starts making more sense. And it could be, and I think this is a very human thing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's a human thing to think, well, geez, I'm looking at this party, but that person isn't smiling at me. I think they are thinking bad thoughts about me. And if I run with that idea, or any human being runs with that idea, they can now have a terrible time at the party because they think they're guessing or reading somebody's mind by their body language. And maybe sometimes you can get a sense of somebody's displeasure with you or whatever, but to start casting that notion on top of your experience doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve anybody else.
I love that you mentioned that. Yeah. So you're talking about getting it outside of you and the ways that serves you. I think it sounds like, number one, that helps you hear yourself. Number two, you get to hear someone else's thoughts about it versus the downward spiral that your own self-talk could leave you in if you go there.
Totally.
But then also accountability. That's what I'm hearing, So if you say, I think maybe I shouldn't do this, or I'm going to, make a healthier choice by telling someone else, and maybe didn't quite go there, but this is what's coming up as we're in this conversation, is by sharing with someone else, even though I have this habit that's not good for me, I want to move in this direction. By telling someone else, that actually helps us to be more accountable to ourselves and continue in that direction.
Totally.
Positive.
I mean, I think part of what it is if you were to tell me, hey, this is the problem that I'm facing, or here's the thing, and here's my solution to the problem. Part of the solution that you're looking for is based on how you're feeling and what you're thinking and what you think you need by the outcome. But as the person who's listening, I'm not emotionally invested in your nonsense. I'm emotionally invested in my nonsense. So if I hear your nonsense and it sounds ridiculous, I can then say, oh, Kim, that sounds ridiculous. Don't do that. Have a snow cone and let's come up with a better plan. Do you know what I mean? It's funny because one of the things that's happened, and when you talked about my wife and I getting married 100 times in 100 countries, right now we're at 20 countries, or 20 times in 15 countries. I'm blessed. I'm very fortunate. It's been a lot of fun. And I think I just lost my train of thought. I love how that happens.
That's okay. No, I love that you actually brought that up, though, because what I wanted to say earlier is, we're talking about this addictive, personality that you have. And now look at such an awesome, fun, beautiful way you've parlayed that into, I'm going to marry my wife, not just once, but 100 times. I love it.
Right, okay. So now here's what I remember. Okay. So when you talk to people who have, and this is, again, just my opinion and my experience, is that when you talk to people who have addictive nature or significant problems, things like that, even when they get their life back together, probably the thing that all of a sudden is going to make them crave more crack, it's probably going to be a relationship with another person.
Oh, that's so good. And that's why they tell you not to, okay, continue. Tell us more.
So it's all of a sudden you find yourself, because you want to be in a relationship, because I think that's one of the important things that we have with each other. We want human interaction. And of course, we want to have sex with other people. So, which generally leads to some kind of a relationship. But once your heart is out there floating in the stratosphere, and this other person can hurt your heart or damage it or put you in a frightened place, and they hurt your feelings in a way that nobody else can, all of a sudden crack seems like a fantastic idea. And so that's what, so a lot of people that I end up talking to about crack is really conversations with their parents and the woman or guy that they love, or some other interpersonal thing, their sisters, their brothers. Why doesn't my older sister not think more highly of me? And she hurt my feeling. And it's that thing that allows us to justify the downhill slide. Like, it isn't the bullseye, but it's one of the concentric circles that leads to the bullseye. You know what I'm saying? So over time, right. And so it's been my own self-exploration, which isn't really just about how do I not eat all the Valium. It's about how do I go out into the world and make money, have a job, have a great relationship. And that's, those are the things that keep me off of the dartboard, is kind of like being really clear about where I am with the world at any given moment in time. Okay. And my willingness to sort of listen to somebody else's nonsense, because I believe that we all have said nonsense. And then how do we deal with these kinds of things? And so, ironically, this has led me down a path of coaching and getting married and a whole slew of things that I never certainly dreamt possible, and writing a book, which, because I guarantee you, I'm talking about things that are like all over the dartboard. They are the dartboard.
But it's all related. So, and let's see, we had a live comment where my feedback can be heard on the other end too. So I apologize for that. Hopefully it stopped. I still hear it. So okay. So what? You know what? Maybe I'm
not hearing it here.
You're not.
Makes you feel better. I'm not hearing it here at all.
I'm gonna go like this for a second. Say, okay, how about this? This is the first time I've told a guest this. Devin, don't say anything just yet. Okay, so what I hear is, to me, this takes you in anybody in the direction of self-love, of realizing that your validation doesn't come from another person, that being so strong within yourself that another human, because other people, they're dealing with their own stuff too. We're going to bump up against each other. They're going to say or do something that might offend us. It's going to happen regardless over time. And so the more self-love we have for ourselves, that helps us to know, wait a second, I don't judge the way I see myself off of someone else. It's best for me to be as whole as I can. And okay, let me put this back in so you can speak and I can hear you. Okay. Is any of this resonating or?
Yeah, of course it's resonating. I think the only part that I would disagree with is about self-love and strength.
Okay. Tell me what's about for you.
Okay. I think, and this is, again, just my humble opinion, is that I think we work on ourselves to gain a measure of strength so we get to be of service to others. But I also believe that we all fit together like in a jigsaw. And to suggest that I will only be strong is unfair and unrealistic. I think what happens is that when I'm strong, I get to be of service to others. And when I am not as strong as I'd like, because I've speak to so many people who think, but I should be stronger, or I should be this thing. And then they're not. And then they create a cycle of just punishing themselves. So what ends up happening is when somebody is weaker, when I'm weak, I'm allowing you to be of service to me. I'm allowing myself to be in a position, but I have to be able to allow myself to say yes. But yes, do I think self-love is important? And part of that self-love is asking for help when I am in the middle of crazy town.
I love that you brought that in. And on my end, I'm going to say that when we reach out to another person, when they aren't able to give us what we're looking for, that's an area that we can start to give it to ourselves. And not saying that we are silos and don't ever need anybody, but that what we might be looking for through someone else, we can give it to ourselves. And so I found through my personal experience that supports me in giving me personal strength. And even at times when maybe I'm needing something and someone else isn't able to give it to me, I can even step outside the situation and observe and go, okay, that's okay. We're two humans and we're not quite meshing right now. And that's okay. I can still see this person with compassion, even though they said something that maybe was hurtful or they weren't able to really support me in this moment. And nevertheless, it's okay for me to be in my space of feeling weak. And what do I need most right now? Maybe I need to step away, or maybe I need to connect with someone else or something of that nature. So that's where I'm coming from. But I totally agree with what you're saying as well.
Yeah, I think if I am, what I would not want to do is rely on the inside of my brain to give me excellent advice when I'm in the middle of a stressful moment. So I think, are there people who can do that? If they are, big thumbs up.
I love that.
If they are, like, again, like people like me, I have devised a wonderful community that if I'm having a relationship issue, I have friends that are relationship people. Like, in other words, they've have long-term relationships. You know what I mean? Like guys, buddies with me who've been married for 30 and 40 years. Those are the guys that I want to talk to. So if I'm having other kinds of issues for, it could be one of 10,000 things, I know who to call. I know who will pick up the phone when I need them. So it's not that, so I want to make it as easy and as conscious for myself as possible to get the help that I need in the moment that I need it. Because in general, like, I'm at a stage in my life, for the most part, I'm not going to throw myself under a bus in a way that is going to be so challenging that I don't know what to do, right? Where the only alternative is, is there a way that I could buy 5,000 Vicodins right now, right? Or Quaaludes. You're probably too young to remember Quaaludes, but they were fantastic. But they're long gone.
Don't try this at home, kids. Okay, continue.
Don't try. No, you can't even try them at home.
Okay,
but so I think you're getting my point, is that I think it's really important to at least know thyself enough that you start learning how to take care of yourself when that thing happens, whether it is that you're using your thought process, your rational and logical mind, or you're relying on a community of peers and people that will love you. Like, I love family.
Let me add here, Devin. I love that you mentioned that, because knowing yourself to the degree of saying, oh, you know what, right now I'm in a moment where the best thing I can do for myself is ask for help, is connect with someone else. And I also see that as, being on a spectrum. I know there are times in my life where I start to dip down and it's like, okay, Kim, you know what to do here. And there are times when I dip even further down. And like you said, it's like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to be so good right now. I need someone else's support in this moment. So I love that you're acknowledging that, because I completely agree with that. Absolutely. When you need to ask for help, ask for help. And it doesn't mean this is my perspective. It doesn't mean you're any less or weak of a person, because we all have those moments. So I love that you acknowledge that point.
Right. And frequently, sometimes it's just nothing more than, hey, let me come get you and let's go eat cheeseburgers.
Yeah. Right.
And we go spend an hour. You know what I mean? And just say, oh, yeah, I get that you're sad. And, have you made your bed yet? Make your bed and give me a call back. I'll be over and up.
Let's see here. Let's go back to, because we're getting towards we're in the second half of the show here. Serenity is saying, that is a great topic for a book, so we can all learn from your wisdom, Devin. So let's talk more about, you are this writer. Like, you do so much writing. You talk about writing every day, as far as what I can tell. And so, yeah, right. And you have this book coming out that is very exciting. So thank you for highlighting that, Serenity. So did you love writing when you were a kid too?
No. I was told in the third grade, I remember getting handed back an assignment from my third grade teacher, who said, you will never be a writer. You should take a lot of woodshop classes, which, by the way, I did. And I avoided writing for years. But I started writing songs kind of so I could mire myself in depression with my guitar, deep sadness and monstrous feelings. And then at some point, I ended up taking a class, a writing class, on a lark. And it started, all of a sudden, a teacher actually said, hey, you've got something here. You've got something here. And that's all I needed, was somebody else because otherwise it was like, no. So I probably started late. And then ironically, I made quite a, I've spent quite a few years being a publisher and editor, as you mentioned at the beginning of In the No Traveler, which is sort of my ode to unity for the world, because we're all supposed to know each other. So I think you should travel. That's my soapbox.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay. So why, okay. Is this your first book coming out, your memoir?
Yeah, this is my first book. I've done tons and tons of writing in the travel universe, and as well as some philosophical writings through a pen name. And I don't even know if those are still online anymore. And then of course I've written for the Huffington Post, and as you mentioned at the beginning of this hour. This is the first book, and I will say it's a completely different kettle of fish.
Okay. Right.
I think it's one thing to say, hey, you should go and experience the 1,000 thread count sheets over at some hotel. And it's another one to say, here is my really poor behavior that this is how I lived my life in a really, kind of terrible, inauthentic way. And now it's for you to judge me.
I totally get that. Yes. So then why did you choose this story or this, part of your life to be your first book rather than, let's say, a travel book or something else? Why is this your first book?
Because it just kept growing. That's
Okay.
why. Because I wrote an individual story about my father that eventually is in the book. And it was a certain catharsis, because I think in much of the way that I was describing how I had these ideas, these things rolling around in the inside of my skull, there was a lot of these things rolling around inside of my skull with regards to my father. And I think I needed to write it. And I don't know if I ever. Yeah, I mean, I think, once you get to the other side of it.
Yeah.
I think while you're in the middle of writing some stuff that you're A, ashamed of, and B, you have questions about, and all of those kinds of, lots of insecurity. And then, of course, even though my father's behavior and my behavior certainly was not something to be congratulated, part of me was like, wow, am I being hard? Am I being too hard on him? Am I being too hard on myself? Is this a truth that somebody needs to read? Who am I writing this for? It was a lot of those kinds of things. And part of me wrote this for me as a pimply-faced teenager trying to understand anything about how to be a man. So I wrote that, and then I wrote it in part of, hey, let's have a ridiculous time together. Let's write, because I think growing up with somebody who's as dubious and lovable as my father, we're skating a thin line here to some degree. I want you to love him, and I want you to go, holy smokes, that is not a real thing. So okay. I wanted that. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, finish your thought. I'll share what I'm going to say next.
I think it's just, I want people to be entertained, and I want people who have had sort of like their own kind of confused childhoods to go, okay, I can identify with this crazy. Because a lot of people are going to read it and not identify with sort of like the crazy part of it. They will identify with the ridiculous, fun kind of part of it. But those who are sort of dealing with the crazy can go, okay, that guy gets it. And know, on some level that they're not necessarily alone. Because it took me a long time to really just embrace, this is my history, like straight up.
Right. This is part of your story, part of your life journey.
Totally. It's part of my story. And it is. I'll be frank with you. Like, here it is. Here is the book. Here are the pages. And it's a little weird. It's a little weird.
Okay, I want to interject this. Some loud noises outside. Okay, I want to interject this. You already know this, but I just have to say this because I have every faith there's going to be someone watching this that's like, yeah, I've thought about writing a book about my life story too, and you're speaking to all the other thoughts and emotions that come up when we end up stopping ourselves from doing that thing. So, I mean, I love that you went with it. You did it. You chose to say yes to this. You were courageous. You said, I'm going to own this story. I am going to put it out there. And whether people ever reach out to you or not, and I'm sure they will, you are going to be inevitably on some level healing other people who had similar stories or experiences, whether they choose to write about it or not. And I think from so many different angles, whether it be a father-child relationship, whether it be, the whole addiction piece of it, whatever else may come up through your story. I look forward to reading it myself. But yeah, Devin, I just want to say kudos to you for writing that. Absolutely. It takes guts. And I just have to acknowledge that because, see, to me, this is what all speaks to why. Like, yeah, we're not living on an island here. Like by Devin sharing his story, whoa, all these other people are going to connect to that and hear that and read that and feel that and then release that. This is how we're all intertwined. So I just have to acknowledge that. So thank you for writing your story.
Thank you. Can I make that comment in case there is somebody listening who may want to tell their story, or it's too weird, or it's too uncomfortable, or it's too something or other, is that this is what I did. I went and formed a writers group, and they met, and I hosted it. And so every Thursday at 7:30, people showed up in my living room, and I had to have writing done. It didn't have to be good writing. It didn't have to be poetry. It didn't have to be my best effort. It had to, I had to have done something. And then once you read your writing to other people who are not emotionally invested in my nonsense, they gave me feedback. Some of the feedback was totally spot on and some of it wasn't. But whatever their feedback was, they let me know that, okay, this piece needed to be ironed out a little bit more. And then, so I had to look at that, say, okay, what's not happening here? What do I need to accomplish? And I did that for a really long time. And then chasing down agents and publishers was its own trial. And I had to be in contact with people to say, okay, I'm sending this out now. I've written my query letter. I'm sending it out. Here's my chapter. Here's the thing. I now have to follow up. And there's a certain measure of being diligent that is not my natural case of being, but it was a decision that I made. Like there was a point in the same way, when we were talking earlier, it was like, okay, God, go ahead, kill me. Right. There was also a part of me, God, okay, I'm doing this thing. And, again, you don't have to believe it. You just make a promise to yourself and you don't back out of that promise. Every Thursday I'm doing this thing and I'm doing it.
What keeps you committed to that promise or to yourself?
Well, some days I fail at it. I think what it comes down to is that I am this may sound terrible, but it's really true. I should have been dead 25 years ago from some stupidity. And, don't even make a sad face. I'm blessed. I'm a lucky, blessed guy. So there's a part of me that realizes how resilient we are and how fragile we are. Like my life could have turned out very, very different and could have been much, much shorter. And there's a part of, and I think this is true of every single person that is alive today. And I think it's like, okay, I'm grateful to be here. And you know what? I didn't come here to fit into a tiny little box where I am going. That means I have to just keep doing the thing. It looks like you've frozen, but now you're back.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Good. So I think you just have to acknowledge the fact that you're capable of doing it. My book will not be for every single human being that reads it. I'm sure somebody will go, this is a 2-star book, and go shoot yourself.
Ugh.
But that's not the point. The point is I'm not speaking to the one person in the party who doesn't think I'm the greatest guy in the universe. I'm speaking to the people who I can be of service to, and I know that they're out there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think the other thing that's really good is that your topic is so focused and streamlined that it's gonna cut right through anything. Sorry, I think we're having some tech issues. Devin, can you hear me?
Well, it happens. I can totally hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying. Your book is not going to be for everybody, but it's going to be just what the right people need to hear. So
Yeah.
for that reason, it's awesome.
Yeah, you just keep showing up and you keep doing the thing. And then you also have to realize is that me judging me is actually not the point.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like somebody else gets to judge me. My job was to write a book to the best of my ability and turn it in and give it to another human being to decide. And then when somebody says, "Oh yeah, no, it's not right for me, thanks," then you give it to somebody else. And you keep doing that. Because again, even if I get 1,000 no's, I got a yes. And the yes I got was like, we love this. We love this. What can we do? How are we going to make this happen? Like when my yes happened, it happened it was amazing because I had turned it into a publisher and the publisher sat on it for 9 months. And I'd written them a bunch of times and they never even responded. And I finally wrote them and I said, "I'm selling my book this month. So are you in or out?" And he wrote back and he goes, "We're in." Like 10 minutes later.
Whoa!
So it's not, I have to stay out of the results. The universe gets to decide yes or no. I'm allowed to keep trying.
Okay. Let me interject. What I hear is that you are committed to the yes. So it's like, well, if it's not going to be you, dude, I'm moving on to someone else because I'm not stopping until I get that yes. That's what I hear.
Yes, but by the way, I'm not stopping until I get that yes. Doesn't mean that I didn't think I should throw myself in front of a bus.
Exactly.
Before I got the yes, but it also means that in spite of me thinking I should be thrown in front of a bus, I was like, okay, I'm doing it again anyway. I know that I'm going to feel hideous if it doesn't work out in my favor. I'm still going to go out and do it. And I remember reading, I don't even know if this is true, but I remember somebody saying like, "Oh, Harry Potter was rejected 180 times.
Right. I've heard that.
Now, the most, it's ridiculous. So we don't know.
Devin, what is the legacy you want to leave on Earth? Sorry, I feel like that might be too big of a sounding, too big sounding of a question, but I'm going to ask it. What's the legacy you want to leave on Earth?
That's a ridiculous question, Kim. I think my legacy is that I want you to know that it's possible. And it doesn't matter what that thing is. I don't care what that thing is. I think you are allowed to go after it 1,000,000 times. And if you fail, it's really not failure. It's just a step closer to the thing.
Yes.
You're not like, I don't believe, like I said, I've already, listen, I believe in God. I've already just tried to describe in the most compact way, sort of like my very complicated life in comparison to the universe. But I think whether I were to believe in sort of like an all-knowing, powerful God or not is sort of irrelevant, because really at some point, the relationship I have is with myself. Ultimately. Right. Like, I don't get a burning bush. I mean, maybe I will. I mean, I think I've gotten little baby burning bushes and things, a little spark that maybe was there and disappeared. But I think for the most part, it is up to me to go beyond what it is that I think I'm capable of doing. To at least try. If I fail, okay, whatever, I failed. But what does that failure mean? Our lives are not zero-sum games where it's like, game over, walk away from the pinball machine. It's really, okay, restart the game, try again, keep doing this thing. But it's hard.
Everything adds up service to us, yeah.
I think it does. And I think one of the ways that for me personally works really well is that if I was living in my little insular bubble just by myself, it would be very easy to forget that when I'm trying to be of service and show kindness to other people, and when I say other people, I'm not just referring to friends and family, I'm just talking to anybody.
Okay.
Right? When I try to give of myself, there's this magical thing that happens that in that moment where I'm trying to be of help to you, I am not actually thinking about me and all the things that I'm not getting.
Yes. So going back to earlier in this, when we were talking about getting in those dark places and then getting out of ourselves, I just want to acknowledge something that I've become very aware of is when I notice or catch myself getting into a darker place, it's helped me to stop focusing on me, Kim. Who can I go help? Where can I go give or serve someone else and make a difference for them? And that's feels sort of like a natural way to help, me too. But it helps take the focus off of this, all the thoughts that can start to swirl around. Let's shut that down and look somewhere else. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
I mean, there was a period when I was really just trying to get by day. Yeah. I was working in a flower shop. It's a long story. I'm not going to bore you with it. I had not a flower shop, a candle shop, which is even more like, what was I doing there? It was terrible. But I was there and I was grateful to have this job that had nothing to do with anything that I'm like. And people would say, does this smell more like orange spice or
a persimmon?
Why am I here? What have I done to be punished this way? But literally, I had a friend call me up and say, okay, call up this person you don't know very well and tell them that you had a bologna sandwich, because really that's all I was eating. Okay. I'm having a bologna sandwich. What did you have for lunch? And then after they told you what they had for lunch, then I would say, so how's your day? And then I would not say a single word about anything that I was thinking or feeling. I would just be there to listen to anything that they had to say about anything. Even if the conversation was 30 seconds long, I got into the habit of like, hey, I'm not in this 30-second conversation. I'm not actually concerned about me and all of the, I'm not respected enough in the candle job, which was really a job far beyond my capabilities in that moment in time. So really beyond grateful for even that little step up at the time. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's all of those things that, I just have almost like there's a certain ritualness to the kinds of things, so I can go out and have a good day. And ironically, when I go out and have a good day and I'm actually being of service, a funny thing happens. My self-esteem kind of starts going up. And when it does, I'm actually capable of doing more things than I think I'm capable when I'm not. I know this is a big ball of yarn that is a big tangled mess, but
Devin, thank you so much for sharing your story today. And I think it's so inspiring for so many people. You just like what you said, your self-esteem grows the more that you take yourself, I don't know. I'm getting a little bit of that feedback. Is distracting again. I apologize.
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah. But anyway, I think you are incredibly inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing here today. Is there anything you'd like to share that we didn't already touch on that you want, to leave as a final message or? Yeah.
No, I mean, yes, but I love you. Can I do this?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, please do.
Okay. So anyway, I spent 7 years writing this book. I worked really hard on it. I had a wonderful editor who made it the best story that I could possibly be. It's called 10,000 Miles from My Dead Father's Ashes. And can I give a website? I mean, It's available anywhere. You can find it anywhere, IndieBound and Barnes & Noble and Amazon, of course. And if you if you buy my book, I'm going to give you like my friends free gifts and things. I have a bunch of free things like that. And if you love it, or even if you think it's terrible and give it a 2-star review, if you actually leave a review, I have other things that I'm doing. Like
nice.
I'm putting it all on the website because I'm terrible at all this stuff. But if you're into it, just sign up and you'll get updates of the kind of free things. I'm also doing giveaways and doing all kinds of ridiculous things because I cannot compete with Tom Clancy or Nora Roberts or Stephen King.
You're not competing with anybody. You're in a category all your own, and this is still just the beginning, right? You have other books that you plan to write, right?
No, I'm actually in the middle of like 3 books right now.
Okay.
There's one specifically that I'm writing. I'm working on sort of like the first 20 weddings between me and my wife, because I think I learned an awful lot about myself, but more importantly, I think I learned an awful lot about relationships, because it's, people love to see new love.
Yeah.
People really, People love that stuff.
And you and your wife are a beautiful couple. And I just love seeing you guys together. So yeah, I think the more that you guys keep getting married and share your photos and all those stories, that's going to be romantically inspiring to everybody.
I'm a lucky guy.
Aww.
I'm a really lucky guy.
Well, Devin, yes, I'm glad that you shared your book. I would have asked you to do so anyway, as we, continued on here. Where can people find you on social media if they'd like to connect with you? Because I know you do your daily videos and all of that stuff too.
I do all that stuff. Really, if you type in Devin Galaudet, my name, it's just going to come up. It's the easiest way. I mean, honestly, facebook.com/Devin Galaudet. And my name is spelled Devin Galaudet, Galaudet. I think you have it on Facebook and stuff like that, Kim. So, I mean, whatever you're on, I'm on everything, and it's all interwebbed together. And then, of course, DevinGalaudet.com has more on the book. And all that kind of fun stuff, which, by the way, I hate doing, but I think it's a requirement.
You hate doing what? What do you mean?
Just say, buy my book and stuff like that. It's horrifying. I know.
Okay, I can identify with that part. Yes, I agree. But I think you do that thing that all entrepreneurs, I think, are, trying to work towards. It's just, it appears anyway. Whether or not you feel this way, it appears that it flows out of you very naturally. And that right there is basically like, hey, yeah, so, I wrote this book and blah, blah. And inevitably people are going to want to buy it. So what do you say?
Again, I hope so. I mean, I'm a book nerd, so I read a lot and I love books, and I love books on all kinds of crazy subjects, because I think I'm still forever fascinated on how people try to find happiness and love and salvation. I mean, that's ultimately, I think, what it was that I wrote. And that's what we're all trying to figure it out. We're just, we're a bunch of dots on this big spinning planet, a rock in the sky, and there we are. And by the way, Kim, thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really grateful.
Oh, thank you, Devin. I love hearing you speak and share, and what you share is so rich. It's very rich in content and inspiration and depth. So yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for being here with us today. My pleasure. And thank you to all those of you who are with us live or on the replay. We had such a good conversation here live, and I know I didn't highlight a lot of that, but I think you can also see that this conversation went really deep. And Devin, I also want to say thank you for being with me, as we had a couple moments where it's like, well, I see it a little bit like this, I see it like this. I think that was really good, and I really love that moment and appreciate you being being part of this conversation today with me. So thank you to Devin, and thank you to all those who are watching. Please go ahead, and if you're watching the replay, go ahead and still share your thoughts. We'd love to connect with you afterwards. And you can find out more about future episodes by going on Facebook, going to @KimO'Neil Coaching, and O'Neil is O'Neil, and check out the events tab and see all the shows that we've got scheduled right now. I'll be adding even more in the near future. So I'm really excited to connect with you. You can also go to KimO'NeilCoaching.com and find out more about the personal empowerment and interview confidence coaching that I do. Remember that every day is always a new day. Even before we started this recording, Devin was highlighting again that it's not just every day, every moment, every second, every millisecond, it can be new. And you got a lot of good, really, really good content and perspectives in today's conversation that I hope you will find in support of you, or maybe someone that you know who's gone through a similar life journey. Please go ahead and share this out to them if you think that it may be in support of them moving forward. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.